Sorry.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you all very much for coming back after lunch and giving us your attention. We really appreciate it. We're going to try to make this as dynamic and lively as we can. There's a great panel. We've already been having a long conversation that we hope to continue here. Fortunately, if you were here before lunch, Mohammed and I were on another panel, and I'd like to kind of pick up from that. But first, I want the panel to introduce themselves and maybe give us a quick background of where you got into this space and what you're doing, and then we'll jump from there. So I guess maybe we'll take a seat.
Thank you. My name is Mohammed Salman, and I'm the head of BSV Hub in South Asia and Middle East. And the second hat of mine is I'm the chief executive of InvoiceMate, which is trying to solve the problems of conventional invoicing. So the space, I'm breathing blockchain for the last 5 years, pragmatically, and trying to bring value through training programs, consultancy gigs, advisory, and now with my own project as well. So that's how I came into the space, learning about it and then educating about it to the industry, especially the government is my forte. I have worked a lot with the government in the last 5 years, including United Nations entities. So that's where I'm like specialized in this space.
Cool, great. Nik?
Hey everybody, glad to be here. My name is Nik Kalyani. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Decentology here from Silicon Valley. Our mission is to onboard the first 10 million Web2 developers to Web3. So we are a developer tools platform, and what we are doing is building out the Hyperverse. The Hyperverse is an open, decentralized marketplace for smart contracts. Our vision is that in the future, instead of building monolithic smart contracts, developers will use smart contract primitives that other developers have created, much like Lego blocks, and wire them together. So we are blockchain agnostic, and we are really, really excited to be here and talk about the future of smart contracts and developer tooling.
Thank you, Nik.
Good afternoon. I am Dani Marco. I am the Director General for Digital Innovation and Digital Economy at the Government of Catalonia. I have been working in the government from the last 15 years, always working how to develop better services to our citizens using digital technologies. And right now I am in charge of what we call the development of disruptive technologies, 5G, artificial intelligence, blockchain, new space, and how we can merge these different technologies to really transform our society. And one of my goals is also to create this new economy here in Catalonia, to create really new business models of how companies can, from Catalonia to the world, develop these digital services.
Thank you, Dani. Illia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Illia. I'm co-founder of Near Protocol. Kind of our vision in general is so-called open web, which is to compare to the existing web is kind of moving to the ownership economy, passion economy, and pretty much self-sovereignty, where people in the world have kind of control their own assets, control their own data, and are able to govern the protocols and applications they're using. And so pretty much we build infrastructure, we build kind of the platform, and we also fund the ecosystem across the board to develop the applications of the sort. And so the goal is you take out your phone and all the applications are actually on open web and not, are actually stealing your data and monetizing it somewhere else.
Thank you, Illia. And I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Brian Heinen from Blockchain in Europe, and I am a project director in commercialization of products, services, and platforms. I've been in this space. I originally was with the Bitcoin Foundation in 2013-14, and I've been working since then on various startups and enterprise projects, really with a passion on agriculture, and mostly to tell a story about maybe what we're going to talk about and touch upon today. So I really hope this becomes an extension of the conversations that we've been having. Some I've known for longer than others. But I guess when you think of the topic of this panel, we're talking about transparency in the economy and in democracy. And I think that this idea of democracy is it's such a large term that's hanging out there, how we define democracy. And for myself, I mentioned this in the previous panel. I mean, I guess I see democracy as very much about power and leveraging power. And what was great about the last panel, that idea that also is time. And when you have the resources, you can have more, let's say, influence on democracies. And myself personally, so just to give some context, I feel this space in this industry, what we can do with the technology and also the ecosystem is kind of bring more equity to the different stakeholders in our value chains. And I think this is what these gentlemen have been doing with their projects. I also like that we have a little bit more diversity. Unfortunately, we're all men up here for now, but I know that's changing, and that's a little bit about the equity that I'm talking about as well. And I guess, and I didn't plan on this, but Nik, maybe we'll just jump from there, but I really like, how can we bring more equity? How can we bring more inclusion to people who want to get involved, not only in our democracy, but just in building a better community and society in general, where, of course, business is going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. A great question. I think you have to start by making sure that the tools and the platforms and the applications we are building don't have a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And today, like if you look at what's happening in the NFT space, in the DeFi space, etc., there's people surging in there. They want to participate, especially if you look at art NFTs, etc. But what's holding them back is sort of on Ethereum, at least, gas costs and things like that. So I think we have to work collaboratively to make sure that things like proof of stake become more prevalent, much faster, or chains like Near, etc., which have solved that problem, really accelerate faster. I think overall, one of the biggest problems, and you already articulated it, is that there isn't gender equity. And also, there is a fundamental problem with accessibility. The user experience is still designed by engineers for engineers. And we got to solve that problem very, very quickly. And I'm glad to see lots of chains, lots of protocols, and lots of developers making headway in that. But I think if we address that problem, accessibility, in terms of user experience, we will address some of the other problems also along the way.
I agree. And does anyone want to jump on that, or can
I think I would like to mention that, like, this kind of simplicity of using definitely is a big thing, and that's Near been focused on that from the start. But the other thing, I call it the supply chain problem, right? Is to participate right now in crypto, NFTs, etc. You need to first get crypto, which means you need to have money that you want to put in crypto, which, given it's volatile, that's a barrier to entry, even if it's super easy to do, right? And so the kind of what we've been trying to find is what are the ways we can give people a way to earn crypto to kind of start directly in the digital realm, right? Through either working, through participating in kind of different programs, through getting grants, through doing funding. And we had actually pretty good success. One of the applications is crowdsourcing that launched on Near, is actually, like, we have 2,000, 3,000 people daily working across the world who are usually in poorer countries or like lower income countries, pretty much earning a very fair, very fair salary from this, just kind of directly in crypto, right? And they like, and the benefit is it's fully global, right? We have people in Philippines, in Russia, like people in Cuba. It doesn't matter where they are. There's no kind of borders and like limits to do this. And so that itself, like, we have women in Philippines, for example, who during COVID couldn't work at their main place of work, were able to start kind of participating in this economy. And so we need more places like this where the people can start actually like earning through work, through kind of various activities to pretty much onboard people into this.
Let me take the ball from you for a second, because you said something for me that's a key to the incentive, and something we talked about in the last panel, the incentive to get people involved in this space. So even put aside if it's a blockchain or not, it's about how do we get people involved, especially when we go back to democracy. To me, for democracy, it's that. What is the incentive for people to get involved? They get so tired of even trying to follow the news, and if it's fake news or real news, and it's too much information. So there's that proximity principle of, well, I'm just going to follow whatever is closest to me. It's easy. So following along that incentive model, I mean, And maybe even this is where you can
Yeah.
throw it to you, like,
Well, I
locally.
think when we talk about democracy, it's you can see it in different ways. At the end is that the citizens can be part of the society that it's together them, and you can use technology like blockchain to facilitate their action within our current governance, to be part about the decisions, to access transparency about the things that we are doing from the government, but also to generate new opportunities, equal opportunities to the different people. And this, it's I think the greatest value that blockchain and DLT technologies that provide an environment that they can really increment their opportunities. And you cannot do it by yourself only. It's good to have the control of your data, the control of your services, but at the end, what blockchain provides is a way to connect different people to really develop these new visions and new kinds of generate value, generate.
And something that came up, I think, in almost all of our conversations before when we were talking, it is this idea of bottom up. So when we include more voices in the decision and in the knowledge pool, and these bottom up solutions, instead of being dictated top down, offer us solutions, or at least, let's say, the process that we hadn't even thought about necessarily, which is why I, for myself, love this space. But it's also convincing people, again, to get, for me, again, it goes back to incentives. So one thing is to say, it's, you're included if you want, but like, how do we convince, well, sorry, I'm gonna do this, but you can talk about whatever you want, but earlier in the panel, even the idea of like, how do you convince a CFO to get on board if you're in an enterprise? Or how do you get somebody to want to really put money into a project or support this idea of inclusiveness when they're looking bottom line?
Yes, been in this space for 5 years. I saw that initially there were adoption based on the trend. Like people wanted to come in news, especially the government entities, they wanted to come in news because they are trying to showcase, okay, yes, we have implemented blockchain app. Use case were always like not very effective. And eventually what happened is that POC was not translated into a live product or application. But recently there is a shift from like late 2020. There is a shift in the enterprise world, even in the public sector as well. They are asking about the ROI first. What's in it for us? If we want to implement a blockchain application, what should be the right use case and what value we will be getting out of it? And especially they ask about the monetary return on investment, not just the efficiency part, not just the trust part, not just the other like benefits which blockchain brings in. They asked now a very specific question. If we invest X amount, what will be the Y amount we will be recovering and when? So this is a shift, and I think it's a very pragmatic shift. This will bring adoption of legit applications which are built on the right problems to be solved. So this is the shift which we are seeing in public sector, enterprise sector, and I think it will continue moving in that direction.
But I guess, and maybe this is where you're gonna go with it, and please do. I guess, how do we change the metrics potentially?
Brian, I think we're sort of approaching this the wrong way. We are trying to get everyone onto the blockchain bandwagon when they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Why not get them gradually? Like, ultimately, blockchain is going to become a commodity technology. Right now, it's new, it's exciting, so we talk about it. But there is a middle ground here. There is a pathway to hybrid applications that will eventually take people to blockchain, and getting people to be like you got to focus on blockchain and make an app just like that is, I think, the wrong approach. It's flawed, and it's not going to get lots of people on board as quickly as we want. But if you get them gradually on board, like, all right, let's take one little part of your application, and the part that's relevant, which should be decentralized and requires trustlessness, let's just get that aspect of it on there, and then move, people, entities, public sector, etc., gradually to that way. I think would be a better approach.
Amen. Amen.
I think that to really engage the people, we need to really merge the physical and the digital space.
Yeah.
Because at the end, what people is living, it's in every day and into the different relationships. the digital space generates a new way of connection. But really, we need to connect those worlds to on the top, and to provide that trust environment on that, we have blockchain and DLT technologies that connects that with math. No, this morning, Jordi Illia was talking about the digital identity is really a math to a protocol. When you have this protocol that converts events in the digital or physical space to really be mutable and maintaining, then you have a place to trust and to develop your actions in both physical or digital environment.
Yeah, I would mention kind of decentralization should not be the goal. That's part of the solution, but the goal should be, better services, better products, better kind of way to bring people together, right? And so, and you use decentralization, you use this method because this is actually the only way to solve some problems, right? So right now, if you want to create a global organization that is able to invest, handle money, etc., there's actually no good solution in the physical world, right? And so using blockchain, using DAOs and all those tools is a way to do it. Is actually you can bring people around the world, come together, be able to govern kind of how to do it. And we, for example, have a really easy way to do it from Telegram, right? You literally can create a DAO and vote on things and invest or collect money directly in Telegram without leaving it. And people don't need to know that even using blockchain potentially, they don't need to know how it works underneath. So this is something that literally enabling new functionality, new way of doing things. And then on top, people can build, companies or investment organizations or nonprofits. We have people actually collecting funds to distribute for COVID relief and some other disaster relief in China, Vietnam, etc., in India. And so things like that, right? That's kind of the wave of things that are enabled by this technology that people are already using, that is easy to use because it uses kind of common interfaces. And then from there, people then start to learn and figure out how and what else can they do? What else, now that they have this digital identity that links everything, what other services and products they can use? I think that's kind of the way to bring into this. And then that's inclusivity because if one person, already knows how to do this, they'll bring a bunch of friends if it's easy. And then they will come together and start using this for new ways.
I hear this too from our conversation. It's facilitating this interconnectivity of the creative people and offering a channel to get in and start to understand. Because I got to tell you, I mentioned this in our panel too earlier. Right now, it seems like the industry so much is fighting, at least, all right, let me preface this, in the crypto space. And there's a very big difference, although from my own personal belief there's an overlap, but they're fighting over a lot of same early adopters. And I think what really needs to happen is to translate this into a way, and this is actually goes to what you were talking about in the beginning, Nick. How do we get people who want to get involved and they think this is just like learning a whole new language? How do we create that space where people are, you're right, it's not even about blockchain or it's not even about a token, it's about building better products and services is what we should be having a conversation about. Well, whoever, you guys can arm wrestle, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, sorry.
That's just go for it.
Right. So my point is that, of course, the early adopters of blockchain are from the crypto part mainly. So I always say blockchain has two sides, enterprise applications and the crypto applications. In the beginning, of course, for the last 7-8 years, we are seeing more people coming from the crypto side, and for the crypto applications, which to me is a bit futuristic. World has a lot to, there are many problems of conventional businesses which can be solved through the blockchain as a technology, not just the crypto part. So there were not many developers from the conventional side, the legacy side, who were coming in. There were not many corporate practitioners, solution designers, even the consultants and advisors coming from that side. So there was a gap. Now, again, there is a shift again for the last year or so. We are seeing many people from the other side who were dealing only in the databases or the centralized systems. Now they are seeing there is a new opportunity and there can be a solution to existing problems with a new perspective. And that new perspective is through blockchain. So we are moving slowly and gradually towards solving the conventional businesses problems as well. And also there will be, as I said, crypto people are trying to solve futuristic problems. So SSI currently has a dilemma to implement, and it will take a few years for it to be implemented.
And I'll throw this right back to you, but is it a new perspective though, with some new voices? Or is it the same people who saw, oh, there might be some money made from this?
No,
and let's-
they are not bringing any value, of course.
Yeah.
I have seen like
I want to hear
maybe-
new voices too.
Yeah, there are now new voices
Yeah.
coming and trying to solve the problems from their angle.
Brian, I mean, you hit it early on, like we have this pool of developers and, early adopters, and we need to expand beyond that pool
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really get more people in there. We have a sequencing problem here. In order to get people using blockchain, we have to have good apps. In order to build those good apps, we need to make it easy for developers to build those. But in order for developers to build it, there needs to be good tooling, good documentation. So this is this line of problems, and the developers are not coming from anywhere other than Web2. That's our largest pool right now. And if you think about how open it is for Web2 developers to build, like, what do you need? A computer, an internet connection, and maybe a week of your time, and you can start developing. Try that with blockchain smart contracts. Not going to happen.
Right.
You're going to hit a brick wall. It's really, really hard. And so that's why we are solving that problem. And we decided to take it, because we did start with applications and we're like, nope, that's not going to work. We got to solve it at the bottom level and make it super simple for millions of developers to start building apps, because that's how innovation is going to happen. That's how people are going to get excited, and they're going to get more and more different types of use cases into the mix. But it's got to be from this bigger pool of people, not just the ones that we've been using.
And Daniel, we're talking about a space that's borderless. I mean, people who are working in this industry are everywhere, and I think it's a positive thing. But still, what can we do as a community? Let's look. What can we do as a community, whether it be necessarily Catalunya or wherever? How can we build up a more supportive, inclusive community to inspire people to? Yeah. If that's it, if that's the right answer, or not. Maybe you have a different approach to it.
I will try to explain it. Any previous revolution had early adopters and had people that were driving that. In a lot of cases was like people with more power, money power, or political power. Right now, in this case, it's about talent and empowerment of the talent.
Yeah.
And I think that the best way to boost this kind of new environments is to provide the skills, the skills that you need. Not only technical skills, to understand really what is this new environment, because the tools will arrive. There's a lot of great people developing tools and technology, but it's really to put this new environment, new model, new capabilities in the talent, and then it's need to work with the boys and the children to reduce the gender gap. It's really to connect really the talent that you already have with other industries, and to go increasing these innovators, this kind of in any industry or government, on the government itself, people that it's really changing the way that they are working. Because to do the same, we don't need, we can be more efficient, we can reduce our cost, but really, this is a new world, a new way to understand the world, and really the people can manage that.
If I'm hearing you right too, and well, Laura, let me preface it. Let me say it this way. For me too, it's very much about looking at the purpose of why we're building organizations, whether they be private or public or whatnot, but the purpose of how we're building organizations. And that core is what establishes whether we're going to have a return or not that's profitable. It's really about if we put the purpose of the organization first. And I think that's where we have to start building that from the bottom up. As we've all spoken.
And there is a big challenge, because if you create new organizations with this business model, you can go very fast. But if you have an administration like the government of Catalonia that really is in the old structure, to change that, it's because we want to provide better services. We want to empower our citizens. We want to provide them the control that they want.
Right.
But we are, how we, and blockchain and other technologies can help us to do that. But we really need to change this. Okay, how we can put all our information accessible for each citizen.
Gotcha.
And they can open this information to anyone to generate value for them. Also maybe for others, but also for them. How we can be more proactive government, and before you need a thing, we provide you these services, and how we can automate with them, no? With don't ask for a grant. If you have a children, you can access to this specific grant, and we cannot automate that. Technology, it's available, but the processes and also the way we manage the citizen itself, it's very difficult to implement it.
I mean, anyone can jump in. Illia, I want to make sure you get you.
Well, I just want to mention that kind of what blockchain technology is this engine for agreement, for consensus, right?
Yeah.
And for transparency in many ways. And so, like, and at the same time, it's predictability. It's this ability to rely that this service or this data or this transaction to this balance of my money will be there and not going anywhere. And so, kind of when we're talking about infrastructure and community, if on one side people are trying to innovate, they want everything else to be predictable, right? And so, from perspective of kind of having the community, having the physical space, the more predictability we have in it, the easier it is to innovate on the other dimensions, right? And so, kind of government pretty much providing a kind of space to innovate is about predictability of everything else, right? It's predictability of like how to interact with the government, right? Having specific interfaces. It's predictability of what is the kind of regulatory framework that's being applied, et cetera, et cetera. Then you can go fast in all the other dimensions and kind of innovate at the same time. So it's important for governments to start adopting technology, because this will actually give predictability back to the kind of the community that they're running. Because we're still interacting with, we're still in physical space, even if we're digital.
We have a couple of minutes. Thank you. Sorry. We have a couple of minutes left. I want to give each one of you a quick moment to say something. You can answer this, or you could bring up your own final concluding point. I guess for me, though, I come back to that idea of purpose, and actually something Nik and I were talking about the other day. Whether it be blockchain or crypto or anything, I mean, for me, I love this idea of trying to fail and just keep trying and failing. And I'd rather work with somebody who's tried and failed than never tried at all. And I see that so much in the startup space in general, but even in the enterprise space, when we're talking about this integration of blockchain and I love that. I think it's so creative, all these people that are just putting everything out there, throwing their ego away. I always say that assholes actually don't get ahead. It's a misconception of like, if you're a jerk, you're not going to get far. And this community has been such an inclusive community. I think that's why there's so much excitement around it. That's my own feeling of purpose, but I want to.
No, I think to me, it's important to have integration between the blockchains, but it's more important to have integration of blockchains with the existing legacy technologies like Oracle of this world, the SAPs of this world, and the Microsoft Dynamics of this world. So, because again, if you stay disconnected from that part, you are disconnected from 90% of the digital transformation.
Very good point.
So you have to be closer to them. You have to work with the interoperability. You have to work with the integration, data points and APIs and all that side. So just to keep it a brief, I think that is more important for me as an enterprise solution architect.
I think it's a very good point. Is it including in that inclusiveness? Yes. We can't turn our back on understanding how we got to where we're at now. I agree.
Brian, I'd like to make two closing remarks. One is about innovation and failing forward. I think we have to keep innovating. Some of these experiments will fail, but as long as we are incrementally moving forward, I think that's good. So we need to keep failing forward. Some of these will be successful, some of them won't. That's fine. The other thing is we have to focus on simplicity. We have made things too complex. There's too much jargon, etc. We have to appeal to the ordinary person who's not that much into technology. We really, really have to focus on that as an industry and keep our eye on the ball there. So,
And I see how those two connect as well. It's something that.
For me, I think that innovation is about success and failures, and we need to test as a government really how this new relationship with the citizen is working, and ask them what they need to be more active, more participating on that, and this is the way we are working. Do not think that it's the best solution. We test it, we prove it, and let's see if it's working well.
I mean, for sure, it's about seeding lots of small experiments, right? So we have like 300 different small DAOs, which have a little bit of money. They can go like play around, like they have different purposes, different missions, and then you can see which ones are successful or not, and then from there kind of expand that. And so, yeah, it's pretty much an iterative approach. And I think like in general in crypto space right now, we see this like, we call it Cambrian explosion, right? Everybody's trying everything. And then we'll see kind of over time which things working, which things don't. And then, you know, the things that do work, they'll double down, and then people will try to build on top of them as well. And so, I mean, I think it's exciting that you can now do this at very like fraction of the cost that you would need to do, you know, 10, 20 years earlier.
Great. And I'll just put a little bow on it. I mean, again, I think what's great about this industry, at least from my experience the last 8 years, is just how open people are to help each other out. And I think it's the only way forward, is that idea of tide raises all boats. It's been great in this industry. It's a very inclusive industry. So let's continue pushing that forward. And then our own success for our companies and organizations will come from that for sure, for sure. Thank you guys all for your attention. And we thank you all very much.
Thank you.
For your
Thank you.